Hey guys, Tech Adventure with a video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 13 Pro with the iPhone 12 here. This is a head-to-head comparison. We're going to take a look at the hardware, the software, and then overall build and conclusion of these two phones, why you might want to buy one versus another and what might be right for you. But before we dive into today's video, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure that like and subscribe button. So if you guys are in the market for one of these devices at a discounted price, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. So let's go and dive into both of these two phones. First thing to note is that we don't want you guys to go and get confused with the Pro model of the 13 with the regular 12 here. There is the 12 Pro. This is a different video, that comparison. This is actually the regular 12 here, so don't get confused. This is the Pro model comparison here. And you'll notice between these two phones, they come in the same exact box, where Apple just includes just the phone and that USB-C charger. That was kind of the starting point with the iPhone 12 lineup, is that Apple removed that USB, will remove its wall adapter and the headphones, so you don't get that. You only get that small little packet with the SIM ejector and an Apple sticker and this cable, and you do have to go ahead and purchase a 18 or 20 watt power adapter if you want to plug it into the wall adapter. So as you can see here, both phones, when you hold it side by side, from the top view it looks about the same, but there are a lot of differences between these two devices. First thing, it's going to be the color scheme of it. So with the Pro lineup, if you take a look at this, the Pro lineups always come in those three base color, which is going to be silver, gold, and graphite. And for the very first time, Apple has introduced Sierra Blue on the 13 Pro here. And with the regular 12 here, you get 6 different colors actually. You get a little bit fancy here. You get that purple, blue, green, red, product red, that is, white and black as well. So when you're looking at color, this is where the difference is going to be. Of course, the other thing to note is the actual build quality of both of these two phones are slightly different. If you take a look at the front, we mentioned has ceramic shield front glass on it here, which Apple claims to be really durable glass here. On the other side, the overall build is that on the regular 12 here, you have aerospace grade aluminum body build. So see that body, it's sort of an aluminum body here. On the 13 Pro here, it's actually surgical grade stainless steel. So just more durable or better body build on the Pro lineup. That's the case even with the 12 Pro here, not even 13 Pro. That's how Apple usually goes about building its phone. Of course, the other thing you can't really miss is that these cameras here, and it's another thing we discussed in other videos, that on the 13 Pro you see these cameras just bulging out, huge cameras compared to the regular 12, where cameras are flat here. You have triple camera versus two dual 12 megapixel camera. You don't get that third telephoto camera on the regular 12 here. You do also see another noticeable difference. It's going to be that blacked out right there. That is known as the LiDAR sensor that's not available on the regular model. Even on the regular 12, the 13 model, you don't get that LiDAR feature. Of course, all the other things are same. Both phones come with 5G capabilities and much more going on for these two devices. Now, let's talk about the actual screen size here that we talked about. Both of the phones, as you see up front, about the same screen size, 6.1 inch. They're both Super Retina XDR display all screen. Now, the difference comes in a couple forms here. The first difference is going to be ProMotion here, which is going to be with the 120 hertz refresh rate for the very first time. As you'll notice here, when I'm moving things around, you see that on the regular 12, you see sort of that little laggish or not as crisp, where on the 13 Pro, it seems almost crisp and buttery when you're moving between screens, when you're opening up apps, and that's because 60 hertz versus 120 hertz on the 13 Pro. Of course, that's kind of a given. The next thing to notice in terms of differences, it's going to be the max brightness on these two devices. As you'll notice here, on the 13 Pro, you get 1000 nit of max brightness versus 625 max brightness on the regular 12 here, which simply means that if you're taking the phones outside, you're gonna get much brighter display on the 13 Pro here in terms of the display of the phones. Of course, both of the phones are IPA68 rated. You can take both of the phones for a dive for under the max depth of 6 meters, up to 30 minutes under the standards here that they're rated for. But because both the phones have both front and back being glass, is that if you do drop it or crack it, you're going to compromise the phone, and we probably won't recommend it to take it out in the wild out there, because of course it's going to get water in, you're going to damage your phone. Now let's talk about the next thing on this device. It's going to be the chipset on this device. Again, this is really important, especially when you're gaming or doing multitasking. You want the phone in terms of what they can offer for you, and this is key because on the 12 year, you have A14 Bionic chip. Of course, with every new release of the iPhone, Apple introduces a new chip, which on the 13 Pro you get is that A15 Bionic chip. Along with that comes a couple other changes as well. What are those changes? Well, for the first thing, it's going to be that you have 5-core GPU versus the 4-core on the regular 12 here, and you also get these next generation of neural engine of 16 core, although the other one on the 12 does have 16 core as well. So in terms of the specs here, if you really look it down, you're going to be getting that. And then underlying the cover between these devices is going to be the RAM here. So that's not something Apple really discussed, but if you take it under the look of the hood of these two phones, you'll notice here that between these two phones, 4 gigs on the regular 12 versus 6 gig on the Pro model of the 13. So this is going to be really crucial, especially if you're gaming and if you need that more power. You're going to be looking at the 13 Pro here. So now let's talk about the next thing, which is going to be battery. So what kind of battery life can you expect from these two devices? Well, they have slightly different size battery. The 13 Pro has a 3100 mAh battery versus on the iPhone 12 here, which has around a 28 mAh battery. So 300 mAh difference between the battery. And when you do talk about that, now we want to talk about actual video playback, because that's important. Why is that important? Well, that's a good benchmark for that kind of test here. You get 22 hours of video playback versus 17 hours, almost 5 hours of difference in terms of video playback. And that's because the efficiency of the iPhone 13 Pro, again, slightly better than your iPhone 12 here, and that's sort of a given in terms of how the efficiency of these devices go here. So that's going to be one thing to note here. So let's talk about other thing between these two phones, and that's going to be your cameras here. We slightly touched the camera view, which you have 3 versus 2. 3 is always better than 2 camera. That's a given. Bigger camera and that LiDAR. And there's subtle differences that comes. First thing you're probably going to notice is on the 13 Pro, it's going to have same features as the 12, but it's going to build on that. And that's going to be the very first time Apple introduces what's known as cinematic mode. Again, this mode really, what Apple advertises it as a feature that allows you to take film grade video on your iPhone 13 Pro here. So that's going to be the big difference. Both of the phones can record in 4K up to 60 frames per second. They can take night videos and photos as well. They'll have portrait mode as well, and all of that good stuff that Apple does with its cameras here. So camera wise, of course, you're going to have a phone that does have a better camera here when you're looking at the specs here. Now, of course, the next thing we're going to talk about is the software on these two phones. So when it comes to software, both of the phones can be updated to iOS 15, which was released with the update of iPhone 13 lineup. Now, on the 12, you can actually choose to stay on iOS 15, which was the native iOS that was released on the 12 lineup. So if you are afraid of upgrading, possibly breaking your phone or making it slow or whatever it may be, which we've seen it wasn't really the case when we upgraded this phone, you can choose to stay on 14, but nonetheless you can upgrade both of the phones to iOS 15. And with iOS 15.1 at the time of this comparison video, the phone is pretty stable. We haven't seen any sort of crash or any issues to complain about, or pretty much say, okay, this phone sucks on this update. That isn't the case. So that's going to be that. Now let's talk about why you should get one versus the other one. Well, let's talk about iPhone 13 Pro, because of course 13 Pro is the upgraded model and that's where all the features come in. Now, why would you get the 13 Pro here? Of course, you're going to be paying almost a lot more here, $699 versus $999, $300 more for this Pro model here. So why would you want to get the 13 Pro here? Well, purely looking at some of the reasons it's going to be, you have that 3 times the optical zoom on the back camera. You have these the third camera, which allows you to get a little bit more resolution. You have cinematic mode. You get a screen with 128 refresh rate. You also get a phone that has 66% higher max brightness. So especially if you're taking it outdoor, it's probably going to do much better for you. Also, in terms of actual performance benchmark, we see 19% better performance when we do some of the benchmark testing on the iPhone 13 Pro, thanks to that 6 gig of RAM versus only 4 gig on the iPhone 12. So why might you get the iPhone 12? Well, iPhone 12 for the first part is going to be probably budget wise. If you want to be budget friendly, you don't want to pay that $1,000. You want to pay pretty much a phone that gives you most of the features of the 13 Pro, except for those premium highlighted features. You're probably going to be fine with it. But if you really are considering the regular 12 between these two devices, you might want to consider even the regular 13, not the 13 Pro, because that's only $100 difference and pretty much gives you another year newer device with that A15 Bionic chip as well. So that's sort of our review for these two phones as we break it down much as we can for you guys. We want to hear from you guys. If you guys have used either of the devices, upgraded, or thinking of upgrading, what your thoughts are, leave it in the comment section. And hopefully this video is helpful. If this video is helpful, please make sure that like and subscribe button. See you guys next time.